The Big Ten season is finally here. We're going to jump into every game, every team, and I'm going to tell you which Big Ten team has the toughest opening weekend opponent. It's right here. Locked On Big Ten starts now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Of course, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The week one matchups, they're finally here. I can't wait. You can hear the excitement in my voice. We're ready to go. Not everyone's playing a cupcake. I'll tell you what that's all about, and I'll tell you who has the toughest opponent. Of course, 92,000 fans show up to watch a Nebraska women's volleyball game. We'll take a moment to give that its due. And week one Pigskin Picks. Be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And, of course, the Nebraska Cornhuskers opened up the schedule at Minnesota on Thursday night. By the way, if you missed that game, the Big Ten Network is replaying the snap-by-snap highlights, the 60-minute package that they do. And the entire game's highlights will be Saturday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern. So check it out if you missed it on Thursday. Then the Big Ten Network will go live with their Big Ten tailgate show from West Lafayette, Indiana, and then they will stay there to broadcast the Fresno State-Purdue game at noon Eastern. The reason I lead off with that one is because I told you at the top I would let you know which Big Ten team has the toughest opponent, and I think it's that game right there. Purdue having to take on Fresno State. That is going to be no gimme. Fresno's coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons, and they're coming in with a pretty decent defense, and they think they can win. And that's half the battle right then and there. Meanwhile, everything's brand new for Purdue, well, except their stadium. This is the 100th year of Ross-Ade Stadium, but they did a lot of renovations and spruced it up a little bit. But Ryan Walters, this is his first game as head coach for Purdue. He's just 37 years old, making his debut. Comes over from Brett Bielema's staff over at Illinois, where he was the defensive coordinator. And statistically, Illinois was the best defense in the Big Ten last year. So he has all that coming in, and he's going to revamp that team and make them a defensive team as well. Plus, they are going to change the offense and open it up a little bit as well. They're not ignoring the offensive side of the ball. As you know, Hudson Card transferring in from Texas, and he's coming in to air it out for the Boilermakers. So a lot of excitement for Purdue, a lot of newness, but maybe too new. They better be careful. This Fresno team is going to come in ready to go. I'll have this game and all the games with the Pigskin Picks in our last segment, so hang tight. I'll tell you what to do with that in case that's something you want to get into. Meanwhile, let's get back on track here. We previewed this game in yesterday's podcast, but in case you missed it, you can always go back and check it out. Friday Night Lights in East Lansing. Michigan State trying to kick off a bounce-back year following last year's disappointing 5-7 season, and they take on the Central Michigan Chippewas at 7 o'clock. That's on FS1 Friday night. We still don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be for Michigan State, either Noah Kim or Caden Hauser. And Mel Tucker said this week, he goes, you know what? Whoever you guys see walk out onto the field when we get ready to take our first snap, that's when you'll know who I have chosen for starting quarterback. So stay tuned. We will all find out together, keeping it close to the vest there, Mel Tucker. And remember this, by the way, every year, every full year, remember 2020 wasn't fully, every full year since 2006, a MAC team has upset a Big Ten team. Maybe it's this game. There's another one on the schedule Saturday. We'll get into that as well. Speaking of Saturday, back to the Saturday games. East Carolina goes to the Big House to take on the Michigan Wolverines. And, of course, that team will be without its head coach, Jim Harbaugh, who is sitting out the first game of his self-imposed 3-game suspension. This is a noon kickoff, and it is on Peacock. And defensive coordinator Jesse Mintor will be the Michigan head coach for this game. Look, it won't be a matter of who wins this game. It'll be a matter of how much Michigan wins the game by. They should win this game by 5 touchdowns. Absolutely. Utah State coming into Kinnick Stadium to face the Iowa Hawkeyes at noon. That game is on FS1. Keep an eye on the score on this one. Remember, Iowa needs to score 25 points a game in order for offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz to keep his job on his father's staff. That was the condition of him continuing after a pretty anemic offense last year, the last 2 years, really. Some bad news, though. Quarterback Cade McNamara, who transferred in from Michigan and had success there, he has missed a ton of practice. You know, he was coming off a knee injury, really didn't get to do much in the spring. Then he fell awkwardly at the beginning of summer camp, and they held him out, and he has not taken a lot of snaps at all. And so he's got a leg injury. He's come back, just came back to practice last week, but Kirk Ferentz, not sure he's ready to play. He just hasn't been in with the guys, and I don't know if he's in game shape or not. So Deacon Hill probably going to be playing under center for the Hawkeyes this weekend. So keep an eye on that storyline. That's going to be and the points that they score. At 3:30 on CBS, the Ohio State Buckeyes travel to Bloomington, Indiana to take on the Indiana Hoosiers. Ryan Day, of course, just announced this week who his starting quarterback will be Kyle McCord, but he also is going to play Devin Brown. They're both going to play. I think that'll have an important impact later on the point spreads when we get to our Pigskin Picks later on. But this also tells me that quarterback battle is still going on. It is not settled. If McCord has a bad day and Brown has a good day, that will flip really fast. I'm absolutely sure of it. Meanwhile, Tom Allen, he revamped his entire team for the Hoosiers. They've added 23 players from the portal, most of them in key positions. He also has yet to name a starting quarterback going into this weekend. He said on his weekly radio show, he goes, look, I got Brandon Sorsby, got a lot of high-end arm talent. Those are his words. And then Taven Jackson, who's the Tennessee transfer, who, as you know, if you follow Indiana, is the brother of basketball star Trace Jackson Davis. He says Jackson has moxie. I don't know what that means as far as naming a starting quarterback. That's all he said. He wouldn't name it. And we'll find out on Saturday. Again, probably expect both quarterbacks to play. So in the Indiana-Ohio State game, I expect 4 quarterbacks total to play, 2 on each side. By the way, Allen hasn't picked a kicker yet for Indiana either. Nico Radicic and Chris Freeman will both kick in the game. So that competition continues into the season. And Buffalo is at Wisconsin at 3:30 on FS1. First-year head coach Luke Fickell is taking a team that was built with big offensive linemen and powerful running backs, and now he's going to go up-tempo, no huddle, quick, air it out, the air attack. The transition will be fun to watch by itself. If it is successful, it'll be even more fun. So hold on and watch that one. A couple of side notes. They do have an awesome running back in Braylon Allen, who has rushed for 1,000 yards 2 years in a row. So they can't ignore him. If they're going to go all air attack, they do need to run the ball. Maybe he'll have more running lanes with everything spread out with the offense, or catch the ball out of the backfield more. Offensive coordinator Phil Longo. I went back. I mentioned this earlier in the week when he was at North Carolina as a quarterback. He ran the ball 45% of the time. So it was closer to 50-50 than just airing it out all the time. So that is something to watch with the Wisconsin Badgers and how they develop that air attack. So keep that in mind. And then there's one other game that might not be as interesting. FCS school Towson taking on Maryland. It's at 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. That, of course, is Mike Loxley's alma mater, Towson. He's throwing him a financial bone. He's letting the small school play the big school, getting the payout. Hopefully for Maryland, it's as simple as getting a nice, easy win, letting a lot of guys play, and don't get anybody hurt. Towson collects their check and moves on. So that's what's going on with that game. Still more games to come. In the meantime, I would love your comments on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, and also here on YouTube as well. We'll take a look at some of the rest of the games as well. Plus, we're going to give due to an amazing event this week at Nebraska that didn't have to do with football. All of that is coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. We are brought to you by Game Time. You know, if you go out with your friends and you say, hey, let's go to this game, or hey, let's go to this concert. Well, somebody's got to buy the tickets, right? Is that you? Is it me? It becomes a little bit of a stressful situation. You got to make sure you get the good tickets and make sure the view is good and all that. Well, I have a solution, and that is Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Get any event you want, whether we're talking sports, theater, comedy, whatever you want, concerts. And it's easy to find to buy tickets to every single event in your area. I like that they give you the image of the view from your seat before you buy it. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job loss protection. They offer it all. It's no risk. It's great. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals in case you pull this all together on the last day. You get their exclusive flash deals for tickets. Again, it's football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, everything you could think of, they have tickets to. And they also have their Game Time guarantee, which means you get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and the same row for less money, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. It's fantastic. Tickets are sent directly to your phone. You order them on your phone, couple of taps on the screen. Tickets are there. No emails to dig through. So snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, you can create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so before we get back into the rest of the football games from week one around the Big Ten, there was an event on Wednesday night that is worthy of a mention for sure. And the largest crowd ever to witness a women's sporting event took place at Nebraska's football stadium on Wednesday night. 92,003 fans showed up at Memorial Stadium to watch the five-time NCAA champion Nebraska Huskers volleyball team sweep Omaha in 3 sets. For those of you listening audio only, I'm putting up some pictures on the screen. A lot of fireworks over here. And, of course, here's a shot of the full football stadium. And back in the corner by the end zone, they've got the volleyball court. Just an amazing sight, an amazing night. They capped it off with a country music concert afterward as well. And the whole night was dubbed Volleyball Day at Nebraska. 92,000 people outdoors watching a volleyball game. And here's a look at the girls being honored by everybody. That was a lot of fun. That was a great visual. Had to fly over. It was very emotional. It was a great night. And the crowd broke the previous record set in 2022 in Barcelona for a Champions League match. It also beat a previous record for a women's event in the United States. Remember the Women's World Cup final between Team USA and China in the Rose Bowl back in 1999? 90,000 people were in attendance there when Brandi Chastain, you remember her, she had the game-winning penalty kick, and then she tore off her jersey in celebration of all that. By the way, Memorial Stadium, like Ross-Ade Stadium, celebrating its 100th season. So a great, memorable event here for them with that stadium. A lot of great memories in that stadium. All right, back to football. And speaking of the Huskers, the team, of course, opened their season Thursday night at Minnesota. And then they play week 2 at Colorado against Coach Prime and Deion Sanders. They don't get to play their first home game at Memorial Stadium until week 3. That is September 16th. They host Northern Illinois. And I'm sure that will be another sellout. No question about it. All right, Toledo is at Illinois for a 7:30 kickoff. That is on the Big Ten Network. Now, remember what I said about the MAC earlier? There's always a MAC upset against the Big Ten every year. Maybe this is it. And Toledo, they're pretty good. Like, they're favored to win the MAC this year. And strangely, these two teams, Toledo and Illinois, have never played each other. I mean, they're kind of close, regionally speaking. I'm kind of surprised. In like 100 years, they've never played. But Brett Bielema is entering his 3rd season in Illinois, coming off that 8-win season last year. But he's going with Luke Altmaier. He's the transfer from Ole Miss. That's going to be the quarterback. and they have to replace their running back, Chase Brown, who every time I talk about Chase Brown, I say he quietly rushed for 1,600 yards last year. I mean, he did. 1,600 yards is no joke, and didn't seem to get a lot of attention. I believe he was a fifth round pick by the Bengals. I think he's going to be the steal of the NFL draft. You know, with Joe Mixon there, I think that's going to be their next running back. And corner Devin Witherspoon, who was the 5th overall pick in the draft. So he went to Seattle. So they lost a lot of talent there at Illinois. So we'll see. They're going to have to replace those guys. But I think they'll have a pretty successful season at Illinois. On primetime, Saturday night, 7:30 on NBC, West Virginia travels to Happy Valley to play Penn State. This is not a whiteout, but it's a night game at Penn State. As you know, the atmosphere is going to be fantastic, and they're rekindling kind of an old regional rivalry under the lights. West Virginia used to play Penn State a lot in my early childhood. I remember that, but they haven't met since 1992. This will be quarterback Drew Allar's turn at the wheel, and Penn State has a dynamite set of running backs, and the defense is loaded with future NFL talent at all 3 levels. So Vegas says Penn State will win this game by 3 touchdowns, and maybe they should. But I have an unpleasant fact for Penn State fans, and if you're a Penn State fan, you probably know this. They have a little bit of trouble on openers, slow to start, right? I mean, let's think about this. The last 2 years, they barely beat Purdue and Wisconsin, respectively. In 2020, remember the game in Bloomington where Michael Penix Jr. reached out to the pylon and barely hit it there for the double overtime win against Penn State? And in 2018, they needed overtime to beat App State. So hold your breath. Get through the game. Just try and get the win. Just win this one, Penn State. Sunday at noon features Northwestern at Rutgers on CBS. There are no NFL games this Sunday, and so college football fills the day all day long. And in 2022, these two teams used 6 quarterbacks combined between the two of them. They all threw for 21 touchdowns and 31 interceptions, so not great. Nevertheless, we all know the Northwestern storyline. They were rocked by a hazing scandal this past summer. Craig Shemon is doing another rebuild there at Rutgers, trying to build on what they did last year. So there should be plenty of human interest stories for the broadcasters to fill up the airtime if this game gets just a tad bit slow. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. This channel, it's just growing. It's growing. You guys are making it grow. I really appreciate it. Also, I'll let you know that since college football season is here this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live on all the Locked On college channels, including this one, Fridays, live, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it'll be, again, on every Locked On channel on YouTube. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, games, upcoming games, conference rivalry games. They'll go in depth, like the only way that the Locked On experts can do, covering their teams each and every day with their insight and analysis. Got a lot of people at our disposal. And you can find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live again every Friday on this channel and other Locked On College channels, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Friday. Check it out. You don't want to miss it. In the meantime, as I always ask you guys, and you come through time and time again, keep subscribing on this channel. If you haven't yet, you've been thinking about it, just do it. Just do it. It's free, and then you're part of the family. Or share it with somebody that you know is a Big Ten fan or alum that they would love this channel. I would really appreciate it if you would send us along to them. You can follow us and like us on Locked On Big Ten. And coming up, our next weekly feature, Pigskin Picks. Get to actually pick some games here. We've been creative with this feature over the summertime with prop bets and odds on this or that. Actually going to break down some games with our Pigskin Picks. That is next right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, so here's what we're going to do with our Pigskin Picks on Locked On Big Ten. I am going to put up on the screen the games. I will put the point spread up, provided by our friends at FanDuel, and I'll have the over-under on there as well. However, for the sake of our Pigskin Picks, I'm going to keep them simple. I'm just going to go money line and just pick winners all season long. Well, winners or losers, we'll see. We'll tally it up as we go along. I will provide, though, the analysis of the point spreads and whatnot in case you want to do a little more with the action, all right? Let's put it on the big board here on the screen. For those listening on audio only, I will describe what's going on. And let's start it off with the Friday night tilt, Central Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State is a 14.5-point favorite on this game. The over-under at 45.5. I will take Michigan to win this, Michigan State to win this game. The half, sometimes these half points bother me because Vegas knows what it's doing. Maybe it'll be about a 2-touchdown game one way or the other. I think Michigan State will eke this one out and cover. And I would take the over on this one, the over 45.5. So 46 or more points in this game combined. East Carolina at Michigan. I told you earlier today when I was going through a brief description of this game, I said Michigan will win by 5 touchdowns. Well, guess what Vegas says? Yeah, 5 touchdowns, 35.5 points. Obviously, I'm taking Michigan to win this game, as should you. And I think they will get over that 35.5 points. The over-under at 51 also, because I think Michigan's going to put a lot of points on the board. I think this game gets over, just cruises over the 51.5. Utah State at Iowa. This is an interesting one. Iowa is a 23.5-point favorite. The over-under at 42.5. All right, first of all, let's back up. I've told you all summer long how, if Cade McNamara is healthy and he's playing and the offense is okay and we all, and the defense plays well, they're going to win some games. But, 23.5 points, that's a lot of points for an Iowa football team to cover, right? I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be in the thick of things for the Big Ten West. But I don't think they're winning a game by 23. They are winning the game. But Cade McNamara is very doubtful that he's going to play. Okay, he's still injured. So you have to take that in consideration. I think Iowa wins, but they don't cover. They won't win by 23.5. This will be a much closer game than that. And because of that, take the under 42.5 points. Probably took the under on every Iowa game last year and made some money. So that's where we're at with that one. Fresno State and Purdue. Purdue, a 4.5-point favorite. This was 3.5, so the line has moved a little bit. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Boilermakers. I think they do eke out a win, but I don't know about the 4.5 points. I think this is a field goal or less. I think they're going to fight tooth and nail with Fresno State. So I am going to take Purdue to win, but they are not going to cover, and I'll take the under on to 47.5 points. These are going to be two good defensive teams going at it. Okay, so take the under on that one. Let's see what else we have here. Let's go to Buffalo and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, a 27.5-point favorite. The over-under is 53.5 points. Obviously, I like Wisconsin to win the game. Yeah, but I think by the end, they'll eke it out over the 27.5, 4 touchdowns or more margin of victory. And because of that, I would take the over at 53.5. I think it'll be close, 55, 56, somewhere around there. But go with the Wisconsin Badgers, okay? Here's one. Indiana's hosting Ohio State. Ohio State is a 29.5-point favorite. Some sports books have it at 30. The over-under at 59.5. Here's the deal. I got to do this with my heart or with my head and not my heart because I'm an Indiana grad. Here's the deal. Ohio State will probably win this football game. It's hard to say. They will win this football game. But I think because both Kyle McCord and Devin Brown will be playing in this game, they're not going to call off the dogs. Devin Brown is going to want to come in here and be just as successful as Kyle McCord. That way, I think they do cover and take the over. They'll fly over the over at 59.5. I do think Indiana will put some points on the board, though. So take the over in this one and Ohio State covering. And that pains me to do that. But I'm going to give you the truth on this podcast. West Virginia is at Penn State. Again, I just told you, look, Penn State's going to win this game, but not by 20.5 points. I just told you they struggle week one for whatever reason. And Wisconsin or West Virginia is going to come in and play them as hard as it can. I would recommend the over on this one. This is a hard one to pick, but 50.5. Take the over, but take Penn State not to cover. But West Virginia's going to score and make this game interesting. All right? That's me on the record. Toledo and Illinois. Illinois is a 9.5-point favorite. The over under 45.5. Illinois wins this game, but not by 9.5. I think this game is closer than the 9.5. So take the under 45.5 in this one. Towson in Maryland. That's going to be such a blowout. Vegas didn't even put a line on it. And finally, on Sunday, the Northwestern Rutgers game. Let's see. It's Rutgers minus 6.5, and the over/under at 39.5. I think you take the under on this one. I think this is going to be kind of a ugly slugfest battle. I do take Rutgers to win, but they'll cover the 6.5. They'll win by a touchdown. Well, you know what? I don't think they cover. I think I just changed my mind. This is going to be like 20-17. Take the under. Rutgers doesn't cover, but they do win. Does that sound fair? All right. That's how we're going to roll. That's how our pigskin picks are, and I'll tally up my wins and losses on Moneyline with just the winners and losers. But I'll go over these each and every week. Keep it honest, show you where we're at, see which way we're trending. Want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, you everydayers. Our next show will give my opinions and reaction to the week 1 games when they're all over with and in the books, okay? In the meantime, all weekend long, I'm going to be watching games just like you. Hit me up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten or shoot me a comment here on YouTube, and I'll get back to you. Be sure to subscribe. Keep subscribing and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available every single day. I can invite you to check out a couple of things. The Locked On Sports Today podcast, about everything going on in sports, and the College Football Kickoff Live. Look for it on all the Locked On College channels. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you next time. I'm Craig Shemon for Locked On Big Ten.